Ma, you're okay?
Everybody's fine. Raymond, you good?
He's not gonna talk to me.
Chelsea, do yourself a favor. Find the guy who ran you over and make him pay.
He still didn't catch the guy.
Can we please just move on?
That's just rude! Look at your mom!
Who's that guy?
Maybe it's the guy.
Are you sure?
What does he want?
Hi. I'm...
Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Carolyn Talks YouTube channel / podcast, where I, your host, film culture critic and journalist Carolyn Hu, speak to film creatives around the world about their work, the industry, and what inspires them. And today, I'm very happy to be joined by writer, director, producer, editor ZhiMin Hu to talk about her latest short film, Reunion, which is about this family who's grieving the loss of their daughter and sister and granddaughter, Chelsea, who died in a tragic accident. And they meet this man, Johnny, that at the gravesite of Chelsea, and it starts off this this journey for people who are strangers but they're related through, I don't think this is a spoiler, is it, Jimin? You know, like Johnny ends up receiving Chelsea's heart in a transplant, and the film is about how you can grow bonds through, like, I think, ephemeral connections, you know, because Chelsea's not there, but she's this link between them. And it's a short film, but I think it covers a lot of different human emotions in a very short space of time. And the cast is so really good. Like this, I watched this film, I think technically twice now, because I watched the pre-screening before and then I watched the new version, edited version. And I got emotional at the gravesite scene again. I think I actually got more emotional in this gravesite scene than the first time I did it. Maybe it's because I'm more emotional now, but I did get emotional. But first of all, thank you, ZhiMin, for taking the time for talking to me today.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
Thank you. So tell me about first how you got into filmmaking. What got you involved in filmmaking? Not just to be a director, but as I said at the beginning, you do almost everything. Well, with regards to like the top level part of filmmaking, like writing, directing, producing, and editing. And you have a number of short films and you dabble in different genres. You know, you do experimental shorts, features, commercial projects, as well as like personal projects, which I think a film like Reunion is. But talk to me about how you first got involved in filmmaking.
I always love cinema because I felt cinema it's very I'm very ambitious. I think cinema is the top of the number 8 arts. They combined everything: literature, music, dancing, whole bunch photography, all of that. And I'm always fascinated by drama. When I was 12 years old, I was in China. I came across the book, the Les Miserables, Hugues book, and it really changed my life. And I really see the humanity, the priest, how much he have saved a person, the kindness save a person. So that story enlightened me so much because I grew up in a family, a violent family, so I really sometimes I get very depressed. I don't see what is the hope, what is the point, like living in the family violence with a lot of beat up, verbal violence abuse and all of that. But that book gave me hope. Let me see the light, and then I truly believe that hold on to the humanity. I do believe that, that gave me the hope to grow up. And I say one day I'm gonna leave the house. So when I was in university in China, at that time I spent lots of time to do theater, and I wrote some pieces. I directed, so already at that time. And then when I came to Canada, right at the beginning, I was still like so scared because how I grow up, and I'm scared to really to do something I really truly love. You don't have the self-confidence, self-esteem for that. So I start from communication. I study communication in University Montreal. And then after 2 years, I have to say this one teacher, Chloe, he really changed me a lot. He gave me the opportunity because at that time my French was, I just learned 10 months of French in a very intensive class. And then I started to study in the University of Montreal in French, purely French. And then I still struggling with the right words and even today I speak English. My English is not perfect. I have a lot of accent, choosing the wrong words. So I can understand at that time, my class may look at me like I'm a stranger, and then it's like not confident on me able to do anything, and I feel like very upset because at that time I already working on photography for quite a while, so I really already accumulate something. So the I was pretty much discriminate and really pushing away for doing anything, laying a hand on camera. So I talked to my teacher, Chloe, and I say, hey, I really want to do this project myself. I'm gonna write it, I'm gonna direct it, I'm gonna do it myself. And he said, well, first you need to show me the director journal. Actually, it's a storyboard and with all the detail breakdown, camera angle, and all of that. And I did it was just very thick. It's like 5 minutes film, and he really take the time one to one. Have a coffee with me, look at all my work. He said, "Wow, after teaching so many years, I never see someone with that much detail, and you're doing very good job." And he said, "Okay, I let you do that." So I was able to do my first short fictions, able to write the story, direct it, and I find the actor, and then I edit myself. That I think that was like starting the base, why I'm doing everything. Because I felt like I was not able, and I don't know anybody. I'm an immigrant coming to Canada. I don't have a network. I'm not growing up. People are born and raised here is different. They have the childhood friend, classmate. They have all the network. I don't have any. So I don't. So anyway, I get that film done. It was really good. The teacher was really appreciate that. The second year, we have a documentary film, and again, he say, "Oh, you're gonna tell us what role you want to be part of the production." I was like, "Oh, maybe I'm a boom operator." The teacher look at me, Chloe look at me, saying, "No, you're gonna be the director." I say, seriously? Very low self-esteem again. And they say, yes, you can do it. So I make the second documentary, and with this two portfolio, I apply for Concordia film production. I don't think I could ever get into that program. So my first choice was communication. The second choice is film productions. And then I was like, I feel like, oh my God, so many people apply. I don't think I can get in. And it ends up I get accepted. I run to the Concordia, and then I was like, I get in, and then the receptionist, no, I'm sorry, you can't. I say, why? Because your first choice is communication. So unfortunately, I'm like, no. I say, are you sure you want to in film production? Yes, 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 yes. And then he say, all right, I changed for you. I'm like, ah. So yeah, so Concordia, I get in film production. I study because they teach you everything. I mean, it's such a wonderful program. So I learn everything. I work in the sound. I work in the, you know, at the time I want to be a cinematographer. I want to be a DP after I graduate because I have a very strong photography background knowledge and all of that. But in the end, after the second year, I want to be a director. I want to be in French cinéma auteur, have independent filmmaker. So for it's clear this is the direction I want to go. So after I graduated, I focus on being an editor because I feel like look at the spectrum of my skill. I say, okay, what I really need to focus, it's really editing because that's gonna improve me, storytelling skill and all of that. So after I graduated, I've been working for editing for many years. I edit all type of thing to TV show, like fiction, feature fiction, documentary, and all of that. And doing all those years, I continue make short film, make my own film. And yeah, my dream is I can make some film like Les Miserables, like something can inspire, can make a change, can make people see the light of humanity. Just the book, the first book ever, touched my heart, and I want to do something like that.
I'm sure you will, because the thing is, because you're taking all the correct steps, right? You're dealing with so many different genres of film and so many different film styles. You know, looking through your filmography, you do you. And the thing is with Les Mis is like Les Mis is a very much a story about and it's a phrase that people don't understand, but like the human experience, because it is about people who are considered outcasts in like privileged societies. You know, it's about the downtrodden like rising up. You know, like Les Mis is around the time of the French Revolution. You know, it's about the miserable people, the misery of classism and the people who are miserable at the bottom of like social classes. You know, it's about this man Jean Valjean, who steals a bread, who goes to prison for who's sent to prison for 20 years for stealing a bread to feed his child, you know, and like and a lot of your films kind of do focus, I think, on like families, you know, like what parents do and what children do in relation in that familial milieu, you know, and like Les Mis is about a parent's love for their child, you know, and all of the people surrounding them in this community, you know, and from what you said at the beginning, like your own relationship with your own parents in China and everything, that feeds into that, you know. Like I find that you're kind of figuring out who humans are through our familial dynamics, and I want to talk a bit about that, you know, about being drawn to those kind of stories, you know, because I find filmmakers are drawn to different types of stories based on like everyone is drawn to different types of stories based on like they're bringing the things that attracts them, the things that makes them curious about life, you know, like, and filmmaking is a way to explore all of that. But I want to ask you about that, you know, about using film to for you to try to figure out like who humans are through familial dynamics, because there's ways to do it, right? But like for you it's about family dynamics and like how children and parents the kind of relationships children and parents have.
I think it's like there's like a number of angles. First of all, I think a lot of artists they're doing art in a way that it's like a therapy.
Mm.
So art therapy, I believe that is the base of the arts. You know, we're healing ourselves in a way, or express ourselves. And then some people explore different the expression, the method of it, express their idea. But deep down, we have either have a heart that we need to heal, the pain that we need to heal, or some idea that we want to express. So this is the number one. Number two, it's I felt like artists should do something that they very familiar with. They understand, you know, all of that in a depth. So sometimes, for example, like I'm not saying that, for example, I'm telling a story of so and so in Africa or in somewhere in Norway. I need to do my research to really understand what is that, you know, with the death. But by telling the story about myself, my how I grow up, I can go to the good places, authentic places, you know. Of course, as a filmmaker, we go beyond art therapies. Like, for example, uh, the current short film, The Unexpected Reunion. This short film, it's not, you know, my own, you know, experience and, you know, have organ donation, all of that. But there's also element that I'm familiar with. It's a family, Asian family, and they're dynamic, something like that. But of course, I hope in the future I will go beyond that. But overall, I want to say that the whole reason why I'm interested, it's because my own journey, you know, being a daughter and now being a mother. I have two kids, and then and whole way of, you know, going through the pain, because when you have suffered the pain, you really have a lots of you know, reflection, thinking, going through. That's how you understand, how I understand the world, how I understand the people, you know, and then I think there's a whole self therapy as well. Like I'm healing myself, and throughout this the journey, it make me have a lot more interested, you know, in the family dynamic and relationship. And also, family is the unit of the society, and then the society form a country. Yeah. Talking about country, I found that, when those astronauts go out to space, when they look at that, what country? There's no country border line.
There's no borders for space.
It's only a big blue ball.
Mhm.
That's who we are. And especially when I came to immigrate to Canada, and then I really see that people are people. People are people. And we just have different skin and color, or we grow up in different culture. But honestly, people are people. Yeah.
Mhm. Mm. And I'm going to use that as a jump up point to actually talk about your photography, because you mentioned before that you do photography, and you were doing it while you were in college and university in Montreal. And I did look at your photography on your website, and I noticed like your photography, you do both black and white photography and full color photography, right? And a lot of your photography shows you traveling throughout the world. You're different you're in different countries in Africa. You're in Europe, and then you're just like a lot of your photography focuses on people, like taking very close up pictures of people and their faces and showing aspects of their culture. And then also there's like the black and white photographs. You do find that your black and white photographs focus mainly on the human body. So I wanted to ask you about that, about your interest in like people being people, and humans just being humans and just existing. Talk about your photography a bit, and like how you actually see photography. Photography and filmmaking are linked, of course. Film comes from photography, and film and cinematography functions as photography, But talk to me a bit about how you see your photography versus how you see your filmmaking.
Yeah, I at very early time, I'm fascinated by photography, and I love that. I first of all I love travel, and then sometimes when I travel, especially when I sit on the train, the train past, have those flicking images, and I always tell myself, oh, I wish my eyes is a camera. When I blink, I can take a photo. Now you can have the eyeglasses. When I was
Don't even start me on the Meta AI Ray-Ban glasses, because I have aught with those. That's spyware. No.
yeah. So well, yeah, exactly. Because the other thing, that kind of glasses could not take the photo. That it's really in your mind.
Mhm.
So I really and then when I a little bit the like in the early 20, I started to my kids screaming, yelling upstairs.
So I can't hear them, so it's funny.
So in a early time, I'm actually follow a journalist, a photographer, journalist, and then I sit on his motorcycle, and then we just go out to take photo. He is my first teacher, and then he taught me one thing very important. He say every time when your heart beats, your clicks.
Mhm.
So that is how I get inspiration every time when I have a camera, or when I go around, when I see things that really, click my heart, I I click. And over the time, I felt like, oh my God, I really need to improve myself.
Mhm.
So I go into learn some painting, because at one point you need to improve yourself a little bit more, and then you start to understand structure, how to compose and all of that. And then so I get into learn how to drawing and all of that. And then I continue taking those class, and then we have those like new model. And then I was so fascinating and then by human body, because in the past, in a society like in China, we're very conservative. Naked, it's not something like, it's a taboo. And then because the new model class, the drawing class, and it really make me discover human body, the beauty of human body. We have an old man, we have a young woman, and the beauty, it's all, in the face, they have those lines, and then every single part of it telling the story about their life experience, and then so much more. And I was fascinating. I love that. So that was a one thing I love. And then of course I'm interested in human. I have a so when I take photo, especially in Africa, I love to, the color, people. I mean, the landscape is nice, but nothing better than people. So I was fascinating the children, how they play, the laugh, it's just beautiful. I so attracted to that. And so I tick 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 tick. I take photo of people, human, the way they walk, the clothes they wear. I just find they're beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, I love people. I love humans, and photography is a hobby of mine that I haven't been able to like really get back into in years because I used to have I not used to, I do have um uh, a Nikon DSLR, right? An old one too. It was one I got from my dad. Kind of took it from him. But no, and I just recently took another one. He has a Minolta, and I really want to get back into especially film photography, but it can be a kind of pricey hobby, especially in these days. But the thing that I love about photography, the thing like what you would said about like every time we blink, we're taking a picture, like we are our brains as long as we can see and hear, and that our brains are constantly taking in information. As long as we're awake, our bodies are constantly taking in auditory information, visual information, sound and sense, and our brains are really supercomputers processing everything. But the thing about taking pictures is like freezing a moment in time, and like I've had that thought, where you wish you could just take a picture and okay, so like I said before that I'm fully against Gen AI in all forms. And like there's this new technology, the Meta AI Ray-Ban glasses. I fully see that as spyware, and it is surveillance tech. But the reason I'm mentioning this is because you mentioned it. The thing like what those glasses can't do is capture the human emotion behind the thought of taking the picture. Like you're saying, like if we when we blink, we taking a picture, we're processing emotions along with what we're seeing. Our thoughts capture those emotions. And honestly, I think the camera lens captures human emotion in a way that something like these AI glasses can't. Because I think with cameras, there's an intention behind it. You hold up your camera and you make a choice to capture this particular moment at this particular time for like to capture. There's an intention behind that, and that intention has an emotion behind that. And so something like these AI glasses can't do that because there's no intention behind it. You're not making a choice. It's just recording as it goes along. I'm like, there's no soul in that. There's no emotion behind that. So that's the thing that I love about film and photography, because you're making a choice, a conscious choice with every action. In whether it's in photography, you make a choice to take a picture and capture. And even in the editing process, like when you're editing, you make a choice how you want the picture to look when you go through the chemical baths. If you want how deep you want the colors to look, how intense you want it to look. Like, do you want to make it a black and white picture? Do you want to capture it in full color? Like all of these, and those choices have an emotional component behind them. Because how you feel about black and white film isn't necessarily how you would feel about the same image in color.
That's art of cinema. But what are you talking about? A topic I find is fascinating, interesting. Actually, I want to talk about the documentary and fictions and then experimental film. The three things. Because like as you said, when the camera present there, okay, everybody have a mask. When we grow up, we know we cannot say things right out of our mind. We cannot be really explode. We want to protect ourselves. The older you are, the more life experience you have. You all have that. So sometimes, that is like a thought that I have interesting. When I was in film school, I study. I watching a lot of documentary at that time. They have the camera sitting there capturing the reality. But then I'm thinking about what is the reality? Is the reality the subject want you to see, or the true emotion there? Because like when people you have an interview, you set the camera there, they start to talk, but they chose what they want to present. So what I find is fascinating, I find the most dishonest is documentary for me. I find the middle is fiction because it's anonymous. People, you just have fictional name because it's under fictional name, lots of truth can come out.
Mm.
And then I found the most honest experimental film,
Mm.
like David Lynch's surrealist, this type of film. It's like they have their own system of coding. If you know how to decode, the language, the
Mm.
enigma, you totally understand what he's talking about, and then who they are. They are naked in front of you. When
Yeah.
in documentary, you have a clothing. You chose blue, red, whatever color on your clothes. But in a fiction, you can kind of tell, yeah, what is that? But you don't have the actual date, name, and the person. But then when experimental film, oh my God, if you understand what exactly to talk about, literally they're naked in front of you. I feel like that's how I felt when I make experimental film.
Mm.
And I feel like sometimes it's like there's a vulnerability there. And if you don't have the vulnerability, the reality there, you don't touch anybody. That is a fake. Art without truth, they are phony.
Mm.
They are totally phony. They're not real. They are just garbage. Experimental film, and then for a lot of artists, they're so truthful, they're so honest. But if you really understand their what the coding, they are open up for your judgment, because we all are afraid to being judged,
And
right?
that's very true. That is very true. And what about documentaries that are experimental? So like I'll say, so like one documentary filmmaker that I think, I'm not sure, I think I mentioned her to you before when we spoke previously, is Elizabeth Lowe. So she has a film called Mistress the Speller, and her documentaries are very much in the experimental vein, where she's kind of doing what we're kind of talking about with regards to intention and either making the choice to take a picture and record, or just setting up your camera and letting life play out. And so Mistress the Speller is like that. The Mistress the Speller is very much like, and I interviewed her about it, and I told her like her camera feels very much like a fly on the wall, of all of these situations happening, because she's observing these very intimate moments. And sometimes you do forget that you're watching a documentary. You do forget that this is a camera setup, and like for she herself would say, like sometimes she'd set up the camera and she just wait to see what the subjects do, and that's her general filmmaking style. And she was saying that it fascinates her, the choices that humans make in the moment, like she would be watching, she'd go back and watch, she's like, I can't believe this person said this and I actually caught this on camera, like I can't believe I caught this moment in someone's life on camera, and the thing that and like as we were talking, the thing that's kind of strikes me is like these kind of moments, in whether it's an experimental film or a documentary, is, and even in fictional film, these moments never repeat. They happen and that's it, they're gone. And that's one of the things, and like her style of filmmaking, and I would say even like your type of style of filmmaking and films like these kind of like experimental, these kind of films, is like we as humans don't really cognizantly think of like how every single moment is a moment that will never be again. Like every single word we say is not a word. We'll repeat the same words over and over and over millions of times, but the feeling and the emotion and the intention and the reason for them never repeat. It's never the exact same purpose and cause, and that's what I love about filmmaking. Filmmaking is about trying to capture these moments for eternity on film. Photography is the same. You're trying to intentionally capture this moment because you won't see it again. And I want to talk a bit about that because and like reunion and unexpected reunion is kind of a bit about that, but I think all of your films are a bit about that, about people trying to figure out how do we hold on to these moments again. Because I was looking up, I haven't watched it yet, but I was looking up the synopsis for your film, The Teacup. And the teacup is like this cup that's kind of like a talisman for this family. And it's like the daughter gives her father a teacup, and like this teacup has is symbolic of the relationship and her love for him and everything. But the teacup is almost like a symbol of time, like it's given to him at a time the daughter is happy and the daughter loves him. But then, spoiler people, but it's in the trailer. But then something happens when she's older and she breaks the cup. And and like that cup is a symbol of this moment that can't ever be captured. Once it's broken, the teacup can't ever be really replaced. You can fix it, but you can't fix it to exactly how it was before it was broken, you know? And like time is like that, but film is like that. Film is about trying to capture these moments and hold them on. But even in doing that, like the moment is like you capture the moment as it's here, but everything that happened before you took that picture and everything that happens after is never the same again, you know? And so I want to talk about bit about that and about how that kind of works into your philosophy in your films, even in Unexpected Reunion, because if you think about it, Unexpected Reunion is who this family's life before this accident and who they were. The film takes place at this moment, this particular point in time after the accident, and then it kind of jumps forward again in time, again after the moment time. So I want to talk a bit about how your films kind of function about trying to capture particular moments in times in people's lives in your film. Like, what do you think about that? Like, is that something that you consciously think of? Is that something that just kind of just comes about in your writing process and in your directing process?
Yeah, um the teacup actually it's my personal story. It's real. And everything in the story it's really happened. When I was kid, we're really, my parent didn't give me any money, pocket money, so I actually taking bus without paying, dodging the bus, the ticket, the fare, and then save up the money to buy a teacup for my father for his birthday, and then the criminal, and then I get caught.
Yeah, I'm a criminal now. You're the Jean Valjean now.
Yeah, I get caught, and then and I lie about, and I said, oh, I bought the ticket. I trying to find it. Of
Yeah.
course, I can never find the ticket. And she knew it. And I'm not doing it once. So she knew it. And then she let me go. She's the priest. She was the priest for me in my life. So ever since that, I never did that again. Always pay my ticket. But that I save enough money to buy my father the teacup. Yes, the teacup represent the a lot of people watch the teacup, they don't understand a lot of things. It's I think it's a part of the Asian culture and Western, and it's very different. We are born in a way that we learn how to be grateful to our parents,
Yeah, filial piety. Yeah.
we don't have this entitlement. We don't, like ever since we were born, we were taught that, yeah, we're so grateful that they give us life, they raise us. We always felt, I think it's like a little bit over the top because, and then we also come with this guilt, like feeling we're owning our parents. Whenever they did to us, it always like justify that in a way. So I mean, a lots of people don't understand why your father being so abusive, and then you're still doing this gesture to him, like will, so nice to still love him in a way, because I mean, at that part is when you're little, you don't know. You grow up in a environment that you see that it's love. You see that this is a natural, it's common. And also, even though my father is violent, to my mom, to me, he's a sick man. Because he also have his own history. He grew up in a way that he was abused by the stepmom, and he grew up in a lot of beat up abandonment, and he almost like as an orphan, and then he have his own bug, so the difference is, me and my father is, I break the train, he didn't, he continued that, but I fell for him, he's still a human being, he still deserve love. So in the teacup, it's a story, the teacup represent, it's a metaphor of love, and also, you know yeah, first is it's love, and then second is, the second teacup is forgiveness. It's a simple thing, is a, showing to my father is, um the incredible part of that is, I this film was funded by Canada Art Council. I was so lucky, and then during the COVID time, and then I want to make this film to show it to my father, to tell him that I still love him. I love him, even though we didn't talk to each other almost for 20 years. And then, unfortunately, the film before it make, my father passed away. So I felt, and then, and because how he passed away, our relationship, and then changed the ending of my film, and I become a lot more forgiven to my father, And yeah, and then my mother called me and say, "Oh, your dad is in the hospital." So we do have the video check. If one day you have a chance, you can watch the film. We do talk to each other through the cell phone. And then my father was doesn't have much work,
Mm.
and he just said that thank you for not forgiving me. And then after that, he just turned it off. Later on, I find out that he was crying like a baby because that it's like being loved, being forgive, and then he have the remorse what he have done to destroy that relationship. And then he all of that it come together. And 3 days after my mother called me, my father passed away, because we didn't expect that he during the COVID time he went to hospital, and then that's it, 3 days after he's gone. It was hard for me to digest, and I cry a lot, I grieve a lot, and I even think about I give up, I don't want to make this film anymore. It's useless because he can never see that. But in the end, I feel like the teacup, it's not just for me. It's for a lots of Asian people who went through those pain,
Mm.
being suffering, and also going through the forgiven with, and then have to reconcile with the parents. So I shot the film in partially in Taiwan, partially in Toronto. So there's a lot of story about the teacup actually. So going back to the unexpected reunions, I what I find it's like to catch the moment is what this change, what the ad of organ donation, how much it transcend the whole experience, because they were so angry because the death of their daughter, the incident was never resolved. They didn't catch the person. There's so much anger. But then when they see the ad of organ donation, the legacy of you saving another people's life, and that person, it's like happy, living a life. That satisfaction, that it changed
Mm.
the bitterness of the lost, the loved one in your life. And then there's like a relationship growing with that person. Of course, the unexpected reunion not only have a twist about that part, and also have another thought about how the family proceed. Is it the person who received the heart of the daughter? Is it he replaced the place of her daughter? I think in my film was clearly, I make the statement that it is not. The family
Mm.
accept Johnny for who is Johnny, and their daughter will be always there. And that
Mm.
is the whole point, my whole concept, my whole point of view about the organ donation of you're helping someone, it's a legacy, not necessary you have to do something incredible, like like Elon Musk, I create a brand, or go to the whenever outer space. I think simply be a mother, raise the kids, simply helping someone, and that is legacy. Being
Mm.
kind to a stranger, that's your legacy. A
Mm.
legacy is how your kindness, can make a difference.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that, because like the idea of legacy really does play a part in the film. But you were mentioning like the emotion. So the thing about the family that I think is interesting is that each person, when we meet them at Chelsea's graveside, because they're there to perform like funeral rites, like light up the incense and like remember her, and just like share their thoughts about her. Is that everyone is representing a different emotion, and that's kind of symbolizing like the colors that they're wearing. But like the dad is angry, like he's angry that his daughter is dead and that they haven't been able to catch the person who killed her, and like there's like why he's like why has nothing happened, who, like, why is she still dead and we don't have any answers. And the mom is just like, she's just physically and mentally exhausted, she has crutches, so, and she has a brace on her leg, and so she's like physically grieving her daughter, but she's also physically exhausted. Let me say physically. So she's emotionally grieving her daughter, and she's physically exhausted from her injuries. And then the sister, is kind of like she kind of like is joking a bit about, you know, like she's like, I miss my sister, you know, she owes me money and that kind of stuff. And then there's the grandmother. She's less like, she's not ambivalent, but she's kind of like, I just want to get this ceremony over and done with because like being here is just too much for me. So I wanted to ask you about that. So like, but first I'll mention the names of the cast. So like the sister Grace is played by Brenda Kamino. Christine, the mom, is played by Christina Song. Raymond, dad, is played by John. And the grandmother is Alyssa, played by Samantha. Is the grandmother Alyssa, played by Samantha One?
The grandmother is
Is Grace?
it's Grace. It's a Brenda. She played by
Okay.
Brenda Kamino. So it's because different personality have different way of grieving, and also in different stage of their grieving too. Everybody, the family are grieving in different way. You know, for Elisa, she's played by Samantha Wong. Her way of grieving, you know, for young people, they are more focused on, you know, she wants to lift. She don't want to drown because that's too much for her to drown in this anger, this hatred. She wants to live. She wants to see hope. She wants to like, because she's young people, you know, she doesn't want to die. Yeah, like, you know, and the mother, she is more in the forgiven, or she, because for her it's like she want to have peace. She want to
Yeah.
make peace with her anger, because anger doesn't bring her anything, you know, doesn't solve any problem. And then the grandma, it's more like, I need a control. I need to have a
Yeah.
control of everything, you know. Everything cannot like be messy, you know. She's more like a head of the family, and you know, it's a reasonable voice is in there. Daddy is like, you know, that pain was so much because, you know, I wrote the line, you know, my little girl, my, you know, daddy is here, you know. It's like he has so much love with her, you know, he bonds so much with Chelsea, and now this is like, you know, the grief turned into anger, you know.
Yeah.
So I felt like this is a different color, different way of grieving, and then we're presenting a spectrum of how people, you know, going through the extreme emotion. So the cast, it's amazing cast. I think there are, to me, they're the top of the top, and you know, like a Canadian, Chinese Canadian actor. I am so grateful to have them. They you know, I send them the script. They all union extra member. So
Yeah.
this is the first time I ever worked with a union. And for me, I used to work with non-actor in the past. Most of the time, because independent film, you could not have the budget. You cannot hire people with decent money. And this project, I was so grateful to have Ontario Art Council supporting. You know, I get the grant so I can afford to, you know, work with ACTRA. And finally I can have, because for this film drama, you have to have someone have a acting skill. So we have and then also I what is how wonderful it is to work with an experienced actor is, I, you know, they read the script and they love it. And then we have a rehearsal, and they would talk about all the subtext and everything, and I give them freedom. I say, I mean, you understand the background, the line, what is you representing, and then I will give you the freedom, you know. And then actually, I have to say 90%, 99%, they're so respectful. They really saying the line that in the script. This is like differences, professional actor. They're able to deliver accordingly, you know, your script can 100%, because for me, I was, you know, used to work with non-actor. I say, if you are not able to say that line, you can say something that you feel true about your feeling at the moment. You can say that line. You don't have to stick to me, because if that line in the script, my horrible writing was too bad, you cannot really have the emotion, you know, have the impulsivity to say that line. You don't have to. But the cast, it was fantastic. I have nothing to complain. I mean, they are really delivery what I hope for, what I expect. And then most of the time we have one take, because we have um like really our production team wasn't very doesn't have a lot of experience along the way because we could not fight with the union productions, and then a lot of people that we booked before wasn't able to not available to the production to shooting. They have to get on we just have 1 day shooting, so we don't have a choice. We work with a little bit less experienced team, so we are very under lots of stress because the inexperience have a big impact in affecting the production. So most of the time we only have one
Yeah.
take, and then we fly. We have to go continue shoot, shoot, shoot. But the performance, it's absolutely amazing. I will go back to work with these actors. I will write the script. I write the role for them to perform. They are just, I mean, Brenda, the grandma, I mean, she just standing there, just a look. She doesn't need to say anything, and then it was there. Everything just there. It's like, and John, the dad, it was, oh my God, he is absolutely amazing. He even give me a lot of the question, asked a lot of question. We suggested, we discussed. And then he's, we're so free to exchange idea. There's nothing like the, oh, I don't know what, they just freely opens up telling me that, oh, I find this is how I understand this, why he's making this choice. And we could have a very meaningful discussion. That was fantastic. Yeah, the whole experience was like, oh my God.
But I want to talk. We'll talk a bit about the production in a bit, but I do want to we were talking about the different characters do represent the different emotions of grief. Like for instance, and like for me, I see Johnny as like he represents acceptance. Like after you go through the grief stage, you like there's acceptance, and acceptance comes like a long time. Like the grieving process is very long. And what I find, like as we were saying, like since each character represents different emotions, the thing is like when you have like a family and a community experiencing the same trauma, like people process at different times, like so like they all lost Chelsea at the exact same time, and but they're all in a different place of their grief at different times, they're not all in the same stage of grief at the same time. And I think that's really interesting and really important to depict, because there are people like you have people in family say, okay, but I moved on and I've accepted it, I've done, so why are you in the same space as me? Like we lost the same person at the same time. But that's not how humans work, like humans are like, we process things. Sometimes we're in the denial stage for a very long time, and then like you'll get hit by like an emotion and you realize, wait, I haven't really processed this thing that has occurred to me. And it's sometimes not even just like the loss of a family member. It might be just like you suffered a physical injury, like you could be diagnosed with a disability. Like for me, I was diagnosed with MS in 2017, and I kid you not, I thought I had been in the acceptance stage almost immediately, because I knew that the diagnosis was coming, because my doctors and I had discussed it, and then like I remember exactly, probably the only day apart from my birthday, my mom's birthday, that I remember is like April the 20th, 2017. That's when I got my diagnosis. But I kid you not, it was like maybe a year and a half later that I was at church with my sister, and I just broke down crying in church. And I told my sister, oh wait, my sister's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I have MS. She's like, but you've known you've had MS for. I'm like, no, it just hit me that I have MS, right? And so like your characters are like that. Like they're at this very particular stage of grief at different times. And like a lot of people don't understand that, like, and honestly, I don't see that depicted in film often, where if you have a family going through a traumatic experience, like sometimes you'll get like people in different stages, but it's not highlighted, it's not pointed out that this is what is happening, like like it kind of just like moves over and moves past to the next story element. But your film is about this, the stages of grief surrounding this family, because even at the end of the film, where they're celebrating grandma's birthday and Johnny is a part of the family, like grandma says, like where she says, like the dad said, oh, you know, like Chelsea is here, you know, and she's here at this thing. And like grandma is like, no, Johnny is here. You know, Johnny is who's here, Chelsea is gone. And like she's making that distinction because she wants Johnny to realize we don't see you as a replacement for Chelsea. We see you
Yes.
as Johnny. You know, we
Yes.
know you have Chelsea's heart, but the heart is now yours. You know, and like who you are in our family is who you are. Like we're not seeing you as replacements for Chelsea. We're not seeing you as like an avatar, you know, as like a game piece. She's like, we see Johnny for Johnny. But then dad is like, no, but Chelsea's still here. And like that's still showing like they're still processing grief slightly differently, even like this is like what, like a year, maybe 2 years after the graveside sequence. And I thought it was a really interesting thing to do. And like again, Grace is like so, I think, amazing in that sequence because the way like the camera focuses on her in very particular times. And this is where your skill as an editor shines through because you're putting in like the shots of her, of Grace processing these emotions at very particular times in the shots, in the sequences, right? So I want to ask you about that, you know, about how you sequence the grief as an editor in there. So, you know, because as a director, you have one visual goal, but as an editor, you're using a completely different skill. I think a different storytelling skill. So talk to me about how you're kind of like depicting grief through editing in the film.
I actually like really want to work with another editor when I'm directing the film, but unfortunately, either I don't have the money to hire someone, you know, and then I ends up have to do it myself. So what I find it's very interesting is like the mother at the start of the mother want the comfort because grandma, you know, it's her special day, it's her, you know, her birthday, 80 years old birthday. It's huge for Chinese family, you know, I mean to any human being. It's like you live to that, you know. And then the what is you find it's missing is like when you get to 80 years old, a family member missing, you know, like you know, you don't see, like Chinese people said, you don't expect a white hair person seeing a black hair person gone, you know. It's really painful. So that, you know, she said, oh yeah, I just wish if you know, what if Chelsea's here, you know. And mother will say, oh, Chelsea is here. For her, in her mind, that is the heart representing Johnny with Chelsea, you know. And grandma make it clear that it's like, no, Johnny is here, not Chelsea. Then the father make a comment. He have a big conclusion. It's like Chelsea, it's always with us. It's like we never ever forget her. Sometimes, you know, for example, you have a pet, you have a cat. The cat, your dear cat passed away, and then you feel, oh, okay, I get another cat. Is it this cat gonna replace the cat you lost? It's not gonna replace, because the true love, that cat is particular cat. And then like I have a cat 20.5 years old, you know, and her name is Yaya, and then Yaya passed away. Now we have two other cats, Kiki and Gigi. But is it Kiki Gigi replacement? No, they have totally different temperament, personality, and then we have different type of bond relationship. You can never replace that. So this is the whole idea about why he said that. He said Chelsea's, it's always with us. It's like we never ever forget the her existence. It's like a respect, you know, to granddad, to you know, it's yeah, it's a respect to the, you know, it's I forgot a word for that. I say my English is horrible.
Please don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's yeah, it's a respect that she have, you know, the value is like how important you are always, you know, part of the family, even. Yeah. And then there's another part of that is spiritual, you know. I always fascinated by ghost film, and that's why, you know, my next film, I'm working on my first feature fiction film. It's a ghost film. And actually I have two feature film script, they both ghost
You
film.
do have goals, like
I love ghosts. I
yeah.
think we're all fascinating by afterlife. You know, it's sometimes people say, "Oh, wow, why are you so depressed about thinking about death?" But I feel like when you see
Part of
death, you see life.
It's a big part of Chinese culture, isn't it? Like there's so many films and dramas and stuff that I watch where a ghost, like, you know, someone who's gone on is still there, you know, is still hanging around. Like, because like in Chinese culture, like and I think most East Asian cultures, like paying homage to the ancestors is a big part of the culture, you know. I would say in most cultures apart from the West. You know, in the West, when we think of in the West, when you're taught of like ghosts, it's in a negative form. You know, the ghosts are things that are specters that haunt you, not necessarily ghosts to be embraced. You know, and like and like all that comes from like colonialism, that comes from like imperial, like Western imperialism, British imperialism, and American imperialism, because they look at ghosts and stuff as and spirituality as negative aspects of like paganism and like ethnic identities. And like I'm from the Caribbean, and like there are like spiritual elements to like ghosts that are seen as positive, but that's only usually if you have a connection with, that's only if like people who have a connection to like our African ancestry and spiritualism. If you don't, you're like, especially if you go to like Western churches, like I'm like Anglican churches, Catholic churches, and Pentecostal or Seventh-day Adventist, like ghosts are seen as things to be afraid of, you know. And so when I watch a lot of Asian, or I would say like films and shows from other cultures, like I'm always just fascinated by how like the embracing of the other world, you know, of like things that we can't see, and like showing like it can be both negative and positive, and like there are stand-ins for the things that we can't quite answer, but also the things we're curious about, you know. And like Chelsea, like dad saying Chelsea is still here, that's something you wouldn't hear a Barbadian saying, a West Indian really saying, because like for us, because we like those kind of beliefs have been taken out of our cultures due again to imperialism and colonialism. So so we will say I miss someone, you know, but we won't say, oh, I believe this person is still here. Like you won't, you know. And like unless, and then somebody says a pizza buddy will be like, yeah, we don't mess with ghosts, you know, like that kind of stuff. So like and so like that's one of the things that always fascinates me about the differences between Western and Eastern cultures, and like how those, and like how all of these aspects of like human culture differ versus film and stuff. And like even in talking about grief, like I mentioned before, like like how you edited the film to discuss grief, especially in the last portion, because the energy at the end of the film is different to the energy at the beginning of the film. In the beginning of the film, like they're questioning, you know, there's all of these negative emotions, the distancing from grief, the anger, you know, the kind of denial of it and trying to avoid the grief. And then in meeting Johnny, like that's the beginning of their acceptance phase, you know. That's the beginning of them saying, we may never know who killed Chelsea, but at least we have Johnny who's here. Like Johnny was able to survive and live because of Chelsea, you know. And they're not saying that, because they're not saying that they're thankful that Chelsea is gone, because that's not it. But they're just at least we know something good came from this, you know. And so like I said, like that kind of plays into your editing style, and like how you kind of deal with the discussion of the person that's here and the person who's not here, both visually and physically. So there's the Chelsea who's no longer there physically, but there's Johnny who's physically there because of Chelsea. And like how you playing that with editing, especially as I said, the scenes with grandma, with Grace, you know. I kind of want us to like just go back a bit to talk about the editing, because we've talked about your photography and like your emotional connections to films and like the stories, but I want you to talk a bit about just yours, because you said like this is your full-time job with regards to filmmaking. Editing is what you do, that's your day job, you know. Making films and writing, I think that's kind of like your side hustle for now, until like you can make like proper money to make films like full-time. But editing is like your day job. So talk about using that skill and figuring out how to depict grief through editing, because I really want us to talk a bit about that, because like I'm trying to figure, I don't think I've been able to interview many editors. No, not really. But so, and like even in most film coverage is usually with directors, costume designers, writers, but you don't really get many interviews with editors. I want you to talk a bit about that, you know, just about editing and like how you work through getting emotions depicted through editing, and like how that skill is kind of different to like the cinematography background and the photography background.
I find it's like we have a film have to go through all different, you know, different departments, different stage, and it's shape every time it's different. And then the final, it's really in the post. You know, we have a script, And then when it get to the actor's hand, they say, oh, this line may not work, this motivation, blah, 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 adjustment. And then when we're shooting at that moment, you have to lift on that moment. Sometimes they're not able to deliver it. We have to do compromise. For example, like even in my script, there's one part of it, I cut it out because I feel it doesn't offer anything and it's not enough. It's affecting my pace. So I would cut it out. And then you have the director and then the editor. Editor is like you have to totally, in another pair of glasses to look at that. First thing as an editor, I will watch the whole thing whenever I have. It's like a tailor. You have a big fabric. You walk in this room, you have all the fabric, all the clothing, and that's all you have. And you have to go through the whole thing. And it's a big combination as a script writer, director, the two different skill. With that, as an editor, you cut the whole thing. You rewrite a story. Totally might be very different. Like for example, in the script, the timing, like even like the teacup, when I write it, it's gonna, like different way of writing. But when I get to the editing, I say, oh no, I want to do this, put this first, make people have a question or greet people first, and then visually it's gonna work. So really as an editor, you need to have open-minded. And then what it's a visual, and then there's a few number of things you have to really keep in mind. First is the pace of the film. And then you have to have the guts to cut things out. You need to have a guts, like even in the script, I have this part, I love the line, it was awesome. Or the director said, oh my God, this shot is so expensive. I saw how hard we spent 2-3 hours and just to get that shot, or it's very hard. And as an editor, you say, no, I'm gonna fucking kill your baby. Sorry, my F word. Because it's not gonna help with the film. It's doesn't offer anything. There's no value, there's no emotional, or the acting was not there, or whatever reason. So the pacing is the number one thing when it comes to editing. And then the other thing is like the shots, honestly, it's really depends on the director and also the DP, like for example, the director say, oh, I want the close up here. But editor, that's all you have. I only have a close up and I only have a wide shot, or when I doing the panning, and then I cannot cut to the still, so all of that. I think it's both directing experience and editing experience feeding each other. So sometimes when people doesn't have the editing skill or the experience, it's very, very good to have the editor on the side, or let the editor look at the shooting your shot list. Because for example, if you have a close-up is a still, and then you have a wide shot is panning, camera movement or dolly, you cannot intercut with each other. You lost a lots of opportunity. Like you have to either only close up or either wide shot. But every single shot, there's a language there, and there's a message there, and what is important to you, and then there's not universal. There's like a commercial, like we're shooting on television. There's like a common practice, but I think as like the independent filmmaker, the fun thing about being an independent filmmaker, you could create new language, new cinema language. It just not only you have to be honest with the script, you have to able to come out, step up the box and then thinking about, hey, what kind of shot, what I'm gonna create could be so efficient to pass the message at the same time, like have different angle, different creative thing. I shot another film, it's called The Letter, short film, 5 minutes. That's many years ago, 2010. And my whole inspiration is I say, I want to make a film only use close up, mostly only close up the hand, lip, use that fragment of a human body part to tell a story. That was my challenge. It was fun. And it went to a short film corner in Cannes, it was like, yay. So I think as a filmmaker, we have to, get out there. Really, it's independent film. It's time to have fun. It's not like you're shooting on television that you have to follow, not cross the line. You have to, do like this, like a square, Yeah.
Is there ever a situation when the editor might be on set, or are editors usually only hired for during the post-production aspect?
Yes, most of the time, but sometimes they also offer editor come on the set, or I think it's lots of people love to involve editor as much as possible. Sometimes really because sometimes some director didn't keep the editing in their mind. For example, from scene to scene, you need to have a transition. But sometimes people will shoot everything. They forgot about transitions. And then you could not have something between. And then you ends up, and then you go to, you know, you know, stock footage to get something, the owl in the sky, instead of you can just pans up on the sky and pans down. That is a transition, right? You have to keep that in mind as a director. So I would strongly recommend, if a director doesn't have the editing experience, give the shot list or invite the editor, go on the set. They might remind you a tiny bit thing. It make a huge difference. Just think about what is the opening scene. You need to have, establishing shots, and then you can go into deep. But of course, some people say, I want it different. It depends.
Yeah,
But
and
people,
sometimes the stuff.
yeah.
And sometimes the stock footage does take you out of it, because sometimes you know stock footage when you see it, and you're like, this doesn't exactly fit, because it has sometimes like the visual feel of it, like the tone of it is different to like the film or the show, whatever it is. And sometimes you'll be like, what's coming before and after doesn't really feel like it belongs to what the transition is. And that's what you can kind of tell, like, well, this was definitely done after filming. Like, sometimes if they have to go back and do like post filming shots and that kind of stuff, to get like
And also the budget problem. You sometimes run out of money. You don't have the budget.
Yeah.
What can you do? So you're gonna go get stock footage. Have a shot of the house from far, whenever, faking it. But
Yeah.
if you're doing the shooting, you could have idea. And then as a director, you need to plan that in your head as well. I remember when I shot I'm Waiting for Mama, another short film. There's a season change from the summer to winter. I will have the same spot. I put my camera there and I film the summertime, and then I mark it. And then winter time I go back the same spot, and then put my camera exact the same lens, same thing, and filming the winter snow coming in. And then when you do a transition, it is set very natural. It's like from the summer and the winter time, and the season passed.
Yeah.
You need some effort into it if you want visually. I mean, you could just have a shot of summertime, have some leaf, and then wintertime slow falling, but it's not as cool as the same landscape from the summer transform into winter. That would be like, wow, it's some work you do put into it.
Yeah. And something else I want to talk a bit about, like you mentioned it before, and so you mentioned before, like for a lot of your other short films and your independent films, you worked with like non-union actors. Like one of the projects, like Teacup, was filmed partially in Canada and partially in Taiwan. But this one, The Unexpected Union, this is your first full union cast, and it's just 5 people, but that's still an experience that you didn't have before. So talk a bit about the difference in casting, on experienced actors and performers for your work versus casting with experienced actors and working with actors like the union. Because for all of these, I recognize all of the actors, because like they're very prevalent across like Canadian cinema, I've seen them in both independent films, big budget studio films, as well as TV shows. And like these are all very experienced actors, and they're all very good. And I said, like the scene when they go to hug Johnny, like I was all emotional. I was just like, and that experience comes through. And so I want you to talk about just like the casting process and like how you found it to be like what you thought of like going through the casting process with Union versus what you had to do previously?
So casting are so important because casting, if you do a good casting, literally 70% of work it's done. And then rehearsal get another 20%. And then the shooting on that day is 10%. So it's like that's how 100% goes. Casting for me is act with people with experience and non-actor. You know, the differences is like, of course, the experience, but for me is some people really have talent, even they never act in a film. That literally they have talent. So for me, the only thing is super important is self-tape. When they do a self-tape, and then I watch the self-tape, I can tell ASAP if that is the right fit. If the person, when you cast non-actor, you have to really pick the people have their life experience very close to the character. So there's like authenticity there. With a professional actor, they can transform themselves, but still you want to look at the person, the way they hold themselves, you talk to them, do your own research to see if that character can fit in the in your story, the character in your story. So for example, Brenda, I went to see her theater show, the Bachelor Man. So I watched her, in how her perform. I was like, wow, I'm so in love with her, and immediately I say, yes, that's it, she's the one. Yeah, but you still have to build a relationship. The very important is the director and the actor need to have this good relationship. When we come talking about rehearsal is not repeating or talking about just the subtext, is the relationship building. Even the actor have a lot of experience, and if they don't have faith in you, if you don't know how to express yourself as director, or if they don't trust you, and you're in trouble, you're still not able to get what you want. How much freedom you allow them to have, you need to set up the boundary, a limitation, all of that. So working with child, it's different. Child actor, non-actor, that it's like totally, we can talk about that for 2 days. But I enjoy, my rehearsal with kids, child actor, literally just we play together for the whole time, and then it's like 80% of the time to play, 20% of the time really do some rehearsal together. But when I rehearsal for me is a super important. If you don't do rehearsal, oh my God, it's like the shooting day is super stressful. And then, everybody waiting when the lighting, the boom, everything here, and then it's like, it doesn't, and then the acting was not there. And then you're just like, oh my God, what I'm going to tell my actor, of course you have to choose the word, you have to play the game in your mind, but all the homework you have to be done before the shooting. That is the major for as a director. Yeah. And then yeah, so with a non-actor, mostly I do acting workshop with them, and I use the theater approach. I will using some play game, mirror game, like a theater show, and then to build the rapport between actor and actor, like even for professional actor, the unexpected union, we have very experienced actor. I still have going through the whole process of rehearsal. I asked them, each of them play a mirror game with each other, like a father play with the daughter, the mother, and the husband, grandma, and then to make actor have eye contact with each other, to mirror each other's movement, all of that, all theater tricks. I took a year of theater class just to learn, not want to be actor. I want to know how to understand the language, the whole process, how actor work, how they go through that. So that is my homework. So they build a relationship with each other, because like if a couple two actor, they never meet each other and they have to play intimities, like they have to play the lover, they need to have that chemistry build before that. They need to have that moment, look at each other in the eyes, or holding hands, not physically, whenever, but you need to have that rehearsal done. ahead. So lots of homework. Yeah.
Yeah, and for the casting of like Peter Fernand, who plays Johnny, and like he's not Chinese, so like so like I wanted to ask you about that, the choice to have Johnny be not, he's a person of color, but he's not Asian. So I want to ask you about that choice. Because there's so we I know we have to wrap soon, so we won't get into it, but there's like so much just about that choice that we could discuss like for another hour, about having a biracial Black man having the heart of a Chinese girl, like like the whole racial dynamics of that. We won't get into that, but like just talk a bit about just like casting Peter and like the choice to make Johnny like a person of color, but just not Chinese or just not Asian.
I actually, for sometimes lots of things you cannot explain, because when I'm writing the script, I picture a Black man. That was in my head. It sometimes like for example, my first script, I actually have a dream. I dream the whole film, whole story, and then I get up the next morning, I start typing my script. I watched the whole film already, and then I type. It's like almost feels like this is like already happened in the in the past. I just like we create that type of weird thing, in the script. So that part is when I write a story, I make that choice. And then when we do casting, I actually quite open-minded to cast. Actually the original story, it's I want a Black gay man. Peter is supposed to be, but that part of it, I cut it out. Cut it out. He's a homosexual. He's a drag queen. All of that. And then in the past in the editing, but we shot that in the way that he is a drag queen. He have the nail paint polish painting. The mother noticed that, and then the family accepted. Say, oh, yeah, I have nail polish. You want me to paint it for you? But all of that I cut it out from the film because I find it's not important. Being gay or not gay, and then for Peter give us a very beautiful self-tape. I look at that, I fall in love with him, and then he's a very, very good actor. And then as a for comic film, you need someone very solid. He have very solid theater experience. So, and then funny thing is that when I have an interview with Peter, Peter actually is half Asian. He's half Black, half Filipino.
Okay.
And when he read the script, he totally understand all the nuance, all the joke in the film. Like grandma say, "Hey, where are you gonna bring your girlfriend?" Like all the Asian people like thinking about, oh, you have to get married, have kids. That it's like, you are right, you're okay. If you're not get married, single, oh my God, So he gets the joke. He actually like a chicken feet. He was about to eat it. It was so funny. He's adorable. Yeah, he's absolutely adorable. So I cannot even explain why it just come up in my mind when I wrote a script, my vision, it's a Black boy.
Yeah, no, and what you said about like him, about his queerness and his identity, his orientation doesn't matter to the story. It makes sense to me because they just accept him for who he is. He is who he is, like he is Johnny, so like that's not something that has to be a big revelation. And like he doesn't have to come out to them because they accept him, and
Yes.
like they're like, oh, okay, that's just a regular party, that's just as acceptable to you as like that's a part of you as much as your scar from the surgery is, right? And so like my last question is, in looking through like I noticed on your website when you go through like your like the summaries of your films, and you go through like the portfolios, you give references like of what your films are not based on, but like your visual references and like your story type kind of like references, so people know what kind of tone you're going for. Like you have some, like for your new film, the one you're working on now, like one of your references is Blue Valentine, and like I noticed that for like the visual references, you have like pictures of like different actors from different films, and two of them kind of caught my eye because I thought it was interesting. One is Kim Go-eun, and the other one is, I have to look up, I had to ask my friends her name because I'm terrible to remembering people's names, but I love this actress, and her name is Kim So-young. And Kim So-young is one of my favorite K-drama actors. People are like, how is she one of your favorite? And you don't remember. Listen, people, I have memory problems, okay? But the reason I'm asking about this is like, how important is it for you to be familiar with different works and different actors from different cultures and different countries and from different film genres and styles? Because your portfolios that you give for your films and the references you give are very, very what's the word I'm looking expansive. Like if you're familiar with the films that you reference, you realize, oh, these are like really unique films, and like it shows that you have a very particular, you know exactly what you want your films to look like, to sound like, and like how you want the story to flow. So like when you, and then like the ones for Kim Go-eun, like one of this reference, the visual, the picture you use is a scene from Goblin, the Great, like the Great and Lonely God, right? One of my favorite K-dramas, but that's a K-drama from like 2016. And if you don't know that drama, you never really understand the reference you're making with that particular shot. But when you read the synopsis for the film, I'm like, that makes perfect sense, because the character that the two actors are playing, one is a ghost and the other one is not. But who the ghost is very much represents the tone that you're going for. And for Kim So-yeon, like she's a very intense actress, and she knows how to be super dramatic, and like she's like when you watch her, you're just like captivated by her. And again, the drama that you reference is one named Nobody Knows, and that's a thriller. It's about parents, you know, it's about relationships again with children and their parents. And when you read the synopsis for that film, it works. So I wanted to ask you about that, about how important is it for you to be familiar with different films and different actors and performers from different countries and all of these different things? Because I just looking through your portfolio, it shows that you're very knowledgeable about like international films, and not just like Korean dramas, whatever, but like European films and like films from like South America and that kind of stuff.
I think we all, as a filmmaker, we always make a type of film that you enjoy, you like the most, and then that is how you get inspiration. Also get inspired. Like for example, I grow up in Hong Kong cinema. You know, they make a lot of comic film. Like we have Stephen Chow, that kinds of funny film, and then I so captivated by those comic film. So my approach is I like dramedy. You know, combining very emotional, and as comic moment combined together. That is something, a new approach that I'm trying, that kind of drama. So I think for character, it's more than that. It's like when you are not just that type of drama film, and also is the personality, So when I write my script, I will really do a testing, like go into a 16 personality. I would do like, okay, if I am so and so, and I, put myself in that personality, answer all the questions, and then it comes out the result, and then all the character, for example, this is a Sarah, the doctor is INTJA, and then the mother J is, because what I find is interesting is different personality create conflict, and then it's real. People have related to that experience. So like for example, the mother, it's ENFP, for example, it's like extrovert.
But
Like,
just a minute, for anyone who doesn't know what ZhiMin is talking about, she is this personality category that especially in South Korea, it's super popular in South Korea for the last few years, where you use different letters representative of different personality traits. So like EFJP, like some people are more like extrovert, some people are introverts. So like you're an introverted extrovert. You're very someone who's like very particular and like retentive. So I just want to say, just in case people are like, what is she talking about these letters? That's funny.
yeah, so you that is another approach. So when I watch a movie, I was really pay attention of that character, what kind of personality, and then I'm learning from that. And also I do my own research. So when I write my script, like for example, INTJ person, they don't talk like that, they don't sit like that, they don't choose the word like that. Other people were more, like with the hand, extrovert like me, introvert more like, like a calm, extrovert like over like me, like dancing around. So it's like, so it's more authentic when you in a script writing, because you're not only writing, it's no longer writing a story of your life. You're writing a story, a fabric, a story of someone else. So you need to be more authentic. That is the research have to do. And of course, the visual reference, it's mostly for the producer, for the people who can finance, who support me. I am, dying to looking for collaborator, helping me to bring the film to the screen, So it's like giving people an idea is what type of film I'm making, and then so they can, have an idea. Okay, that it's that type of film, because producer also need to love love the film. They are part of the creative process, even they are supplying the finance, and then the all all the resources, but at the same time they are the artists too. They have to understand, the best producer is the director, honestly, because they understand the pain, the process, how you went through.
Yeah, no, that's so true. And like, but we'll wrap here. But yeah, that's like, I really was very curious and I want to ask you that because I was just like, these are some really interesting choices that she's reference choices. I was like, huh. And so like I really was really wanting to ask you that because when I saw like Kim So yeah, I was like Kim So yeah, I'm like, how did this reference pop up here? Because it's such a specific reference, especially the shot you choose is from Nobody Knows. Like, I don't know how many people also like, I don't know how many K-drama fans even watch that drama, but I love it because it's she's amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it was just like, it was like, I had to ask my friends the name of like her name. I'm like, because I even have a GIF on my phone from that drama on my phone. I've had it on my phone since the show probably showed in like 2018, 2019. And I've had that GIF saved on my phone from that very same show since then. So so I love that reference. I know you have to go soon. I have to go too because my dog is here and staring at me to take her out. But thank you so much, Jim. And this was such a really good conversation about filmmaking and like I love this. Again, one of these days I'm gonna have like 10 shirts of things that I say repeatedly in my interviews. But this is why I love what I do. I'm gonna put that on a shirt too.
I really enjoyed the conversation with you, and it's like it's really fun. And for me, it's a fun time.
Yeah, and thank you so much, ZhiMin, and like congratulations on the film. I know you've been working like a post-production on it right up until like this week. Made me laugh. And when we spoke like 2 weeks ago, like you were still doing like the color grading and everything on it. But congratulations for you, and I can't wait to see what festivals it shows at. And I'm sure like audiences, like there'll be lots of discussions about it.
Cross my fingers. So I can I mean, it's like once you make the film, another important step is to let as many people as possible watch it, because that it's like like the book or like any art, you want to help people. You want to being this piece of work, also, I mean, it's like this is like not just my film, it's everybody's film, the whole team, all the actor, their performance, and then we have DP, the music, they are all of them deserve to be seen. Their talent need to be seen. I mean, I believe win-win. When they win, I win. We're all together.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ZhiMin. And I'll
Thank
pause.
you.